The downtown mission says people have been turned away from the emergency shelter at the Aquatic Center. Now they're reopening the doors of the former public library. City Council has approved a pilot project that will soon require some landlords to get a license and pay a fee to welcome tenants. A live look outside now as we see the sun setting on the Ambassador Bridge. 17 degrees out there right now. Colette Kennedy on how long this heat wave will last tonight. I'm Chris Ensing. Thanks for joining us. 51 new cases of COVID-19 reported by the Windsor-Essex County Health Unit today. And there's also confirmation of a variant strain in the region with a jump in preliminary positives for these variants of concern. Now, there's 28 cases of COVID-19 in the area that are positive for a variant. And so far, we know only one case of those is a variant discovered, the B117. Those 27 other cases are being tested. It could take up to 10 days to get results. The health unit says the variants have been found at the Victoria Manor and at the downtown mission. They say the recent cases are contained, but there has been some transmission within families. Now, these variants can spread faster, leading health officials to warn of a potential third wave. And as shelters have been dealing with outbreaks, the downtown mission revealed today that it has reopened its facility at the former downtown library branch. The executive director says it's because people have been turned away from the Aquatic Center, where a temporary emergency shelter is now in place. Jacob Barker joins us now live. This news just developing today. Who's being turned away from the Aquatic Center?
Well, Chris, Ron Dunn, the mission's executive director, says they're turning away people that are experiencing homelessness. His staff, which mainly staffs the center, say people who have been showing up there say they have slept outside, at the hospital, or in stairwells and are being denied access. He says the list grew to 35 people over the weekend of those who showed up and were turned away. The plan, he says, for the temporary shelter created a gap for new people who might require these types of services, a gap he places on himself. Dunn says anybody who shows up at the door who hasn't been in isolation is turned away.
The guests who showed up at the door who hadn't been in isolation are not welcome, right? For obvious reasons. Like, this is not a complaint saying that they shouldn't go there, but the problem that nobody looked at was what's going to happen to those people.
This has been ongoing for weeks, Barker. Why is this happening now?
Well, the mission was shut down a couple of weeks ago because of an outbreak, and the Aquatic Center was put in place. The health unit ordered the mission's regular facilities closed, but allowed for them to be temporarily housed in the city's former library until it was complete, and did not allow for new intakes. When that was done, people staying at the library were moved to the city's Isolation and Recovery Center, or IRC, and those that were staying there were moved into the Aquatic Center. According to the city, only people who have been cleared from the Isolation Center can be allowed into the emergency shelter at the Aquatic Center. It was an attempt to keep cohorts of healthy people together. But it creates a gap for people that are newly seeking shelter, Dunn says. Those are people that are now being helped at the library. Dunn says he was visited by the health unit today and they reminded him of this, but he says that's not something he's prepared to go along with.
Anybody that's been here since February 11th is welcome, according to the health unit. But if you're new, then you're not welcome.
It sounds like it sounds like you're taking those people in as well, anyways.
Well, I'm not looking to pick a fight, but I did tell them right away when they served me that order, I could not comply.
Okay. I'm on the record here.
I will not comply. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, unfortunately, and we're on the record, sure,
Right.
I did say that publicly to them. It's not, again, I'm not trying to pick a fight. I respect the health unit and the work they're doing.
Now, we did receive a response from the city late today, which does not offer comment on what the mission has decided to do with reopening at the library. But a statement from the city in part reads, the TSAC, which is the Aquatic Center, is a COVID-free environment, and processes have been put in place at this location to keep it so in order to prevent further illness. The health unit says it will address the matter as well at its briefing tomorrow morning. Chris?
Thanks for this, Jacob. CBC's Jacob Barker live tonight. Now, some people might be able to get into a local pharmacy for their vaccine this week. Pharmacies in Windsor-Essex are part of a provincial pilot project for the AstraZeneca vaccine. As of now, those shots are reserved for people between 60 and 64. Pharmacists say they're ready to roll.
I can tell you that I'm excited. I'm ready to do my part to really help with the pandemic and help the patients all over Windsor-Essex County. But by the same token, I know that there's going to be a lot of long nights just to make sure that we get everyone vaccinated. We may be opening up the pharmacy as early as 6 a.m. to get vaccines. And then we'll also extend the hours from 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. to do additional vaccines as well.
Before it was theory, now it's actual fact. So it's going to be trying to get everything ready. Obviously after the story, the calls have already started coming in. People are asking. So just trying to prep and getting, how we're going to schedule the people, where exactly we're going to set it up, and how many can we run an hour. So I figure there'll be a day or two of working the bugs out. And then once we get to that, it's just how high can we scale it up.
We should have the first shot in an arm on Friday, and then we've got roughly a 2.5-week period to ensure that we get all of the initial shipment of the AstraZeneca vaccine into arms, because it expires on April 2nd.
Be patient. I wouldn't bombard the pharmacies just yet with phone calls. Give us a chance to get the vaccines in, get everything ready to go, and rest assured, just like the flu shots, we will get those shots into people's arms, and we'll make sure that we do it in a safe and effective manner.
The sports complex in Leamington is now a vaccination site. Volunteers distributing doses to those 80 and older in the county today. This morning, the health unit also updated the vaccinations in the region, saying that Windsor-Essex has the highest percentage of people vaccinated of any health unit in Ontario. This as they near the end of phase 1. They're also setting out the next priorities. Up next will be remaining high-priority healthcare workers and people 75 and older, plus those in that provincial pilot project we just talked about at Pharmacies. They're also plotting out priority groups in phase 2. Now, that includes people who live in shelters, people with high-risk chronic conditions, as well as their caregivers. They're also part of the next phase. And so are people who can't work from home. People in childcare, farm workers, school staff, for example, are on that list. Now, that's after phase 1 is complete, and it's spelled out at length on the health unit's website. A quick update here on where we are vaccination-wise per day. Right now, they say they are doing about 1,000 shots a day. We're getting about 4,000 a week, the doses of the vaccine, but that number is expected to grow soon. And once again, there's more information on what eligible chronic conditions and those who cannot work from home are on our website as well. Healthcare unions in Ontario are demanding better support in a new campaign that's set to launch in workplaces today.
The truth is, the pandemic revealed systemic problems that frontline workers have been struggling with for years.
I want to rip the Band-Aid off what women have gone through during COVID-19. SEIU Healthcare has lost 4 workers in the last year from COVID-19. All women of color.
There are 3 major unions behind the Respect Us, Protect Us, Pay Us campaign. They represent 175,000 healthcare workers on top of better access to personal protective equipment like those N95 masks. They're also seeking a $25 an hour wage for personal support workers no matter where they work in the province. Small businesses in Windsor-Essex were visited by health inspectors this weekend. The enforcement blitz found close to half of nearly 100 businesses were not following COVID-19 regulations.
The 3 most common things we continue to see in all sorts of workplaces is a non-compliance with businesses pre-screening their workers coming in for a shift to see if they have COVID-19 symptoms, for example. We're still seeing challenges with masking protocols being followed and capacity limit issues.
5 tickets and 31 formal warnings were issued across Windsor-Essex. As of last week, 13,000 COVID-related workplace inspections were conducted across Ontario. Businesses found in violation have been told to expect a follow-up visit sometime in the future. The minister says the campaign was focused on educating those that still aren't clear about the rules. Windsor is moving ahead with a rental licensing pilot project in the city's most student-populated areas. This after years of complaints over poor living conditions around the university and college.
We have landlords who refuse to fix broken furnaces in winter, landlords who refuse to fix broken toilets, leaving tenants to use a bucket.
When inspectors have said jump, I've said how high, how quick, and I win and my tenants win. I'm able to brag in advertising of a much safer place, and my tenants have the word of mouth that gets out there that they're in a much safer place.
Supporters of the idea say landlords need to be held more accountable when renters are placed in unclean living conditions. Today's report to council noted that the city's existing complaint system isn't used too often by students because they fear of consequences from their landlord. The pilot will run for 2 years, only operating in Windsor's Ward 1 and Ward 2. That's where the main campuses of the university and college are located.
Normally you see harm walkers depicted as an older fellow. I wanted him to be young and youthful, more in his 50s, when he was just getting out, developing Walkerville, walking around with blueprints in his hand and looking like he's going to be really building a city or town.
That's how sculptor Mark Williams describes the statue of Hiram Walker that he created 2 years ago. The sculpture, it will be the centerpiece of a new parkette that will be constructed at the corner of Devonshire Road and Riverside Drive. City Council approved the final design today. The parkette is being built as part of the districting plan for Walkerville. The bronze statue stands 8 feet tall and depicts Walker atop 6 whiskey barrels. It's currently in storage right now. The new parkette should be finished by June, just in time for his birthday. And right now, Leamington Council is deciding on potential bylaws, as you can read on your screen right there, for boarding houses and farm help dwellings. We're following the details. We'll have updates later tonight on our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. We've taken a dive into the housing market here in Windsor-Essex at CBC Windsor. Our Katerina Georgieva dived into housing prices last week. If people were being priced out of their hometown, one of the questions she's been asking. That story caught the attention of local researcher, podcast host, and blogger Fraser Fathers. He points out that housing prices are rising way faster than the average family income in the Windsor area.
Can you tell us what caught your attention?
Yeah, so I pulled some data from Statistics Canada around census families going back to the year 2000. And it, in essence, looked at the median incomes of families and the various types of families, whether you're a lone parent or a 2-income or a single person in the Windsor CMA, which is the city of Windsor, but also Amherstburg, LaSalle, Lakeshore, and Tecumseh. On average, what you see is about incomes have risen if you index everything back to the year 2000. Are up about 30% on average for the median income of families across that period, again, with some dip in there. But then depending on your family type, depending on your household type, that growth is very different depending on what it is. And when you're looking at the housing market, yes, incomes are up 30% over 18 years, which averages to like 2.whatever% or 1.9% per year. But when houses are going up 30% a year, rents are going up 15% per year, obviously that's not enough to actually keep you in the ball game here locally in the housing market.
So what does that do for someone? We've talked about those trying to enter the housing market, but what does it do for a community like Windsor and the surrounding areas?
So I think it creates obvious barriers. I think one of the challenges that emerges is that people might be able to get into the housing market, but they're taking on significantly more debt, higher mortgage payments, even in this low interest environment in order to enter, which has a consequence around disposable income in the community, and that you can't go to the coffee shop or out to a restaurant because you're putting an extra $50, $100 a month onto your mortgage payment, or you're extending that mortgage out instead of over 25 years, it's over 30 or more years for your mortgage. So you're taking on more debt in order to enter the housing market, which then has other consequences for our local community from a spending and income standpoint.
Dozens of Canadian Muslims joined a virtual conference hosted by a group in Windsor, a brainstorm session aimed at being more environmentally friendly at home. One area they explored how the Muslim community can become allies with the Indigenous community.
It's our responsibility to look to them and ask the questions that we need to ask and support them in their initiatives. They've been looking after this earth for far longer than we as youth have just started doing, and really relying on that guidance and supporting them in their initiatives.
Green Umma launched last year in Windsor. Raja Balia says the pandemic set the group back in some of the initiatives that it had planned, but the organizers are working on events, all aimed to educate the wider Muslim community. Throwing out leftovers adds up to a lot of waste. A report by the United Nations found that the average Canadian tosses out 79 kilograms of food each year. Organic waste programs save some of that from landing in the landfill, but that doesn't exist in Windsor-Essex. There's some who are trying to fill the gap.
I'm not surprised because I see it. I have, there's over 300 households that we collect food scraps from every week. It's amazing to see the amount of stuff that does end up in there.
A program would allow things like fruits, vegetables, coffee grounds, pet waste to be recycled. The city has been in a discussion about putting in place a program, but there's still a ways to go before organic waste recycling is ready.
The city of Windsor, for example, has different obligations with respect to those targets than other municipalities do in the region to proceed with an organics waste recycling program. It's very complicated and certainly is going to be extremely costly.
Now that cost and an exact start date still unknown, but the province has mandated that municipalities have one in place by 2025. Windsor and London, the largest Ontario cities, still working towards curbside pickup of organic waste. A live look outside now as we see the final moments of a very beautiful day in Windsor-Essex. Always nice when the sun pops out. Colette Kennedy is going to pop in with the forecast when we're back. The trial of the former police officer charged in the death of George Floyd has been delayed. Jury selection has been paused over legal arguments about the exact charges. Floyd died while he was being arrested in Minneapolis last May. Just like in his death, today's legal proceedings touched off demonstrations in the streets of Minneapolis. The courthouse has been cordoned off, and the National Guard has been activated to keep order. Officer Derek Chauvin knelt on Floyd's neck for nearly 9 minutes during the arrest. He's currently facing charges of second-degree murder and manslaughter. One count of third-degree murder may be added. Today is International Women's Day, March 8th, designated as a day to celebrate the achievements of women and to raise awareness about the challenges they still face. Feminist protesters in Spain marched to raise awareness about gender-based violence and labor discrimination. Most participants expressed concerns about gender exploitation. Due to COVID control measures, demonstrations were not nearly as massive as last year when tens of thousands flooded the streets across the country. In Paris, hundreds gathered to mark International Women's Day. They called for a day of feminist strikes and rallies to denounce the injustices suffered by women, in particularly around pay inequity. Men and women were encouraged to leave work at 3:40 in the afternoon to highlight the gender gap in salaries. Back here in Windsor, the sun was out. Good time for all of us. Nice chance to dust off some of the rust. Now, the Atkinson Skate Park was packed today. You could say the weather was flippin' awesome. After that long grind of winter, we'll probably be seeing more of this. I don't want to jump to conclusions. I'm not sure if any of these jokes are landing here. Maybe Colette can come in and bail me out of that. Huh?
It's just you. It's you. It's your delivery. It makes me giggle.
It's called the hard sell.
It's perfect. Yes. I wish I could do some of that stuff. It's not like I've forgotten or I'm out of practice. Never could. But it's really cool to see that and that we have the weather for it as well. You know, I'm showing you the progression here. -3. This was at 1 a.m. Actually, around 11, we were at -4. But we started to warm up after midnight. Of course, we did get into a southwesterly flow as a warm front began moving in. So 7 a.m., okay, we made it. We're out of the negatives, right at 0, freezing. Same thing for Chatham-Kent at that point. By the lunch hour, 6 for Chatham-Kent and already double digits, 10 degrees for Windsor. And if you're wondering, yes, and I think you probably know this, but this is the warmest day that we've had so far in 2021. I had to think for a minute, what year is it? It is 2021. 17 degrees, that's kind of rounded up a little bit, but 17 degrees. The warmest we had been was up to 13. So still had double digits there into Chatham-Kent at 11 and Sarnia right up to 15 or near 16 degrees. And the current temperature at Sarnia, 14, 16 in Windsor, 9 for Chatham-Kent, and 8 degrees at the moment there into London. A little bit of cloud cover. There's a bit of showery activity, but it's further towards the north and east for now. And it is showery because it is still mild over towards at least the west end of Lake Ontario. Kind of a different story still in the Ottawa Valley where that warm air hasn't really made its way in. Tonight we'll have some cloud cover and into tomorrow morning we'll see some of that, but a lot of this will be a higher thin cloud, so it'll still be a pretty bright sky. And then we'll get into some clearing and we'll see more of a mix of sun and cloud and warm temperatures. Then as we go into Wednesday, we'll have another system approaching. Primarily at first it runs to the north of us, but then this is going midnight Wednesday into Thursday morning. We'll see some showers move through, and into Thursday we'll probably have some dry periods, but kind of bookended with some showers in there on that day as well. So tonight temperatures come back down as those winds turn more towards the west to northwesterly, but then they're headed back up for tomorrow afternoon. So I've got 14 for us for tomorrow. Same thing for Leamington, might even be slightly milder there into Sarnia. But a look ahead into Wednesday, dry until later in the day, 17, and still mild all the way through. That transition day is really Friday, Chris. So things will start to change over and then back towards seasonal for the weekend.
All right, something to keep an eye on. Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
Many of you were probably up last night watching Oprah Winfrey speaking with Prince Harry and Meghan. They're still getting some strong reactions to that story. We'll have that next. Oprah Winfrey sat down with Prince Harry and Meghan, the historic interview airing last night. And in it, the couple revealed details that shed more light on their surprising decision to step back from royal life. But there was one thing that the Duchess of Sussex brought up in the 2-hour-long conversation that has shocked many. Renee Filippone has the details.
It was a fairy tale moment, and with it came the promise of a new chapter for the British monarchy. Now, not even 3 years later, it's ended in a tell-all interview and allegations of racism towards their young son, Archie.
And also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
What? Today, Oprah Winfrey said Harry later made it clear this wasn't coming from the Queen.
That it was not his grandmother nor his grandfather that were a part of those conversations.
But it's that quote that captured headlines and the attention of the British people.
I'm happy that she spoke out about it. I feel like people need to know. I think that they get away with a lot of things. So I'm happy that she said something, and now people know. I know some people won't believe it, but it's true.
Meghan says the treatment she received had her thinking of suicide. But some well-known critics of the couple paint the interview as self-serving and one-sided.
They basically make out the entire royal family a bunch of white supremacists by dropping this race bombshell.
It's been horrific to watch some of what I've seen this morning.
This marketing consultant says racism has always been a factor in the way Meghan has been covered by the press, but says now attention is directed at the palace and it must take action.
I think these things need to be investigated as a matter of urgency in the same way that they were happy to report last week that they would be investigating within the royal household about these claims of bullying against Meghan.
And for some in Parliament, the issues raised during the interview go far beyond the walls of the palace.
It's bigger in a sense than just the royal family because, you know, that experience of racism, I'm sad to say, is too prevalent still in 21st century Britain. We all have to take that seriously.
For his part, the Prime Minister would only say he has the highest admiration for the Queen.
I've spent a long time now not commenting on royal family matters, and I don't intend to depart from that today.
And for now, Buckingham Palace is silent about the damaging and shocking claims made about life inside the firm. Renee Filippone, CBC News, London.
And that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. We're on social media too. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We live stream the show on Facebook and Twitter as well. The Rick Mercer Report, it's up next. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.